Ceará Global 2020, The Future in 360 Degrees, an event that deals with foreign trade, foreign investments, and international cooperation, brought to you by Chamber of Commerce and Foreign Investments, Brazil and Portugal Chamber of Commerce in Ceará, sponsorship from ADESE, ASCP, APSV Advogados, House of Representatives of the State of Ceará, BF Fortship, Banco do Nordeste, Bugaboo Studio, Café Santa Clara, FIEC, QUER, Sebrae Ceará, SP Combustíveis, and Fortaleza University Unifor Edson Queiroz Foundation, co-sponsorship from Secretariat of Tourism of the State of Ceará, support from Casa Azul Ventures, Elephant Co-working, Federation of the Chambers of Commerce, Brazil Africa Institute, JUSEC, Mango Ventures, Observatory France, Trends CE, Vetor Brands and Patents, Wins for Future, institutional support from Apex Brazil, FEComércio Ceará, and Complexo Bcem, technological support from Mob Telecom, iProject TI, Tape, organized by Prática Eventos and Move On. Media partner, Grupo O Povo. Ceará Global 2020, the greatest international business event in Ceará, our second day of activities, and the panel Made in Ceará. We already have our mediator and speakers, mediator Cesar Ribeiro from the state government, and our panelists Alexandre Negrão, CEO from Aeris Energy, Claudio Bastos, CEO from CSP, and Luiz Eduardo Barcelos, CEO from Agricola Famosa. So take advantage of this panel Made in Ceará and Ceará Global 2020. It's a great pleasure to have this chat. It's not even a panel, really. It's a chat because we're all friends here. People who we admire very much, that the state admires for everything that you've contributed for the development of Ceará, not only here, but internationally. This panel is part of Ceará Global 2020, which is a very important event, not only for the knowledge that foreign companies can have of our state to receive investments, but also because we can show the international scenario to those who are interested to know more about this market that's so difficult but challenging and full of opportunities. So a special greeting. I'd like to thank the organizers of Ceará Global in this panel Made in Ceará. And just a quick presentation of these three great professionals, these three great executives that I have the honor to mediate in this panel, starting with Claudio Bastos from the steel mill CSP. Claudio is an economist from UNB, master's in economics from Federal University in Rio de Janeiro, has vast experience as an executive in Latin America and the Caribbean, and before being the president of CSP, a major industry installed in the state of Ceará since 2016. During 15 years worked in Vale in different countries, such as Indonesia, Singapore, and 6.5 years was president of the company in Peru. The current CEO of CSP, a world reference in terms of safety, security, technology, and sustainable development for steel. Alexandre Negrão, a great friend, CEO of Aeris Energy, one of the largest companies in renewable energies in Brazil and the rest of the world. Great pleasure to have you here with us, Alexandre. 34 years as CEO of Aeris, also located in the industrial complex in Bcem, just like CSP, and today one of the largest manufacturers and exporters of parts for windmills, especially the blades, and has executive background from UCLA in California, and Yes Business School in Spain. And also, Alexandre was a great professional race car driver. So welcome to our panel. And also our friend, somebody that I have great admiration, has vast knowledge of the financial market, especially in the 90s, Luis Roberto Marcelo from Agricola Famosa, also born in São Paulo, and went to law school in São Paulo, director of Agricola Famosa, situated between Rio Grande do Norte and Ceará, one of the largest fruit crop companies, and institutional director of the Brazilian Association of Fruit Crop Exporters, and president of the sectorial chamber from the Ministry of Agriculture. And so this, because of the time, these were a very resumed CVs of our three panelists about their experience in Ceará as investors, as entrepreneurs, to talk a little bit about the scenario called Made in Ceará. So welcome, everyone. I'd like to begin the first round, and you'll have 3 to 4 minutes to debate the questions, and after the round, we'll have a second round, and depending on the time, your closing remarks. So the first round, Claudio, I'd like to talk to you a little bit, asking you, because today CSP is one of the largest companies in the state, more than $5 billion, 3 million steel sheets produced, and to recognize the size of this project for Ceará in terms of development. So if you could talk a little bit about the project, telling us the reason, the choice for CSP. That's a curious question because everyone has this curiosity, why Ceará? I mean, millions of reasons to be somewhere else. Of course, if it were in Maranhão, Pará, close to the different mines, but I think certain decisions for investments go beyond the scope of the company, and an investment of this dimension, of this size, the participation, the involvement of the state is extremely important. There was a political decision that was made in the state of Ceará in attracting these investments. There was important continuity. So, you changed governors, politicians, and the priority was maintained. I mean, nobody complained of anyone. The project was well developed by all governors since the beginning. And I think this was a very important factor. There is another factor that I always like to report, which is the investments that the state has done in education. Okay. In terms of education, the state of Ceará has been an outlier. And perhaps the most important thing is that the population has bought into the idea of education as being the major factor of revolution for the state. And this, of course, reflects the quality of our labor that we have in Ceará. We have, people that work with operations and general managers from the region, general managers In the metallurgy course in Ceará, the only course in metallurgy outside of the south and southeast. And so this was yet another decision from the state of Ceará in order to obtain these investments. And so I think these are the main factors, the political decision of doing this together. The state invested heavily in the port. Also a dedicated road all the way to the port, and also the unloading system for coal and iron ore. So we had a major participation as the state of Ceará. And so I think this is what won over CSP, so that shareholders decided to invest in Ceará. Yeah, mainly the idea, the work that the state has been doing in order to have long-term partnerships. When you think of investments, there are different reasons to invest in a certain place. And you think short and midterm. And so we have been working a lot with this long-term investments, long-term partnerships, things that the state can offer. Yeah, but politically speaking, the state is doing this. I mean, political forces, they have been able to have a vision of the state, institutional vision, a broader vision, and not just geared towards a political group. So a vision of the state that's determining in this process. Yeah, I mean, you only have long-term relationship when you have the basis to do this. It's really maturity. Alexandre, now what Claudio mentioned, and as having the basis in the Complexo do Bacen, we know industrial development, the entire capacity to export, and logistics, and everything goes through the complex. You've been there since 2010, and it's an important link in the chain, especially for renewables. How do you highlight, Alexandre, in Bacen, the logistics and geographic conditions of Aeris for the development of your business? Good afternoon, everyone. Claudio, Luis, it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. Really, I think the port has a very strategic position, okay? It's not by chance that we came from the countryside of São Paulo to invest in Ceará. The port, besides having the conditions to meet our needs, today the finger has the proper size. I mean, it's a special port where we can go in with our trucks until we're very close to the ship, and so we can save on handling costs. We can take the blade directly from the truck to the ship, and we know this is very beneficial because any extra handling is a cost and it's dangerous. I mean, the blade is a product, besides being 70 meters, 74 meter blade, it's a product that's very sensitive, okay? So the blade, in fact, the port helps us very well. Another benefit that we see that's huge here in the port is the issue of the location. We're very close to the United States and very close to Europe as well. So we import a lot of raw materials from Europe, and we export many blades to the US. And this makes us very competitive. We're able to compete with a Chinese blade, one of the reasons we can compete is because of the location. The fact that we're very close. I mean, going in through Houston or Mississippi River, and this makes us very competitive. And so the port meets our needs in terms of exports of the blades and importing the raw materials. Aeris is located 17 kilometers from the port, and so it's extremely strategic. It's one single road. I mean, there's no signage. It doesn't go through any city, and so it's an area that's purely industrial, which really helps the transportation of the blades. And so we really have the best of both worlds in Ceará, and we have this great logistics. I mean, today, Aeris, besides sending blades to all of Brazil, we're 1,000 kilometers from the greatest wind potential in Brazil, in Ceará, Rio Grande do Norte, Bahia, and all of these states, and we're very close from the port, which really helps us a lot in exports. Yeah, so the conditions of the state that has a lot of wind and a lot of wind power potential. So for the local market, the wind farms, but also the international market. So well positioned, right? Very, very well positioned. Aeris today is very competitive. I mean, Aeris, even in our wildest dreams, we imagined that Aeris was going to grow so much. We're completing 10 years of activities. We've invested since 2010 $500 million here in Ceará, and we're going to invest even more in the future. Like Claudio mentioned, labor was a very positive surprise that we had here. Very well trained, very dedicated, with a very good schooling level. We calculate that 30% of all of the labor that went at Aeris, many people had their first opportunity at Aeris. So great labor. Today, almost 5,000 workers and about 10,000 have gone through our company. So really, in fact, the position is very strategic because we're in the Northeast and, the state of Ceará. I can confirm that really we hit the bullseye in having chosen Ceará and not another state. Yeah, that's very good for the state, this whole process. The work that we've been doing together with the governor, Camilo Santana, and the state, generally speaking. And so, to show major players in Ceará with great quality and efficiency, such as you guys in the CSP, this is very important for the state because it shows that regardless of all the homework that we need to do and our challenges as the government, but the state has been doing its homework the best way possible, receiving major investments. That's great. Congratulations. Luis, so let's go from industry to agribusiness. I always like to say that in this success that we see in agribusiness, the climatic conditions that we have in Ceará, the state has always had a lot of success for agribusiness. And that has a lot to do with what you do, Luis, because I know you for some time, and I know that you have taken agribusiness in Ceará and you promote and you disseminate and you really help us to improve. And so I've been following this for some time, and basically all of our panelists are from São Paulo. You're from São Paulo? No, I'm from Rio. Oh, I see. So allow me, I'm from Ceará because I've received the title as citizens of Ceará. And that's great, helping Ceará to develop more and more. Now, Luis, good afternoon, my friend. I'd like to ask you this. You're producing here in the state in the semi-arid since 1995. We know that part of the production in Ceará, another part in Rio Grande do Norte. And today, you're one of the greatest exporters of fresh fruit, especially melons. If you could talk to us a little bit in our context made in Ceará, what are the challenges of producing in a semi-arid like here and exporting most of your production through Pecém? If you could tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, very happy to be in this panel with you. Good afternoon to all our colleagues. Very, very high level. Claudio and Alexandre Negrão that I met yesterday in our mission in Brasília. And so really, it's a challenge. But at the same time, Cesar, we're only here in this region, in the semi-arid, because of the climatic and geographic conditions. So we work with watermelon and melons for exports to Europe, especially in the winter when they can't produce, and we've expanded this market. Now we're in the Middle East, and so, of course, there are challenges, there are some difficulties. But now recently, with the Asian market that we're still exploring, but we're starting to get ready to work in that market as well. So this advantage of being close to Europe and the United States, and a fresh product like ours that goes from farm to table without being processed. So this short transit time is very important. And so we need to be very close. And another thing is that our production units are close to ports, such as Natal and Mucuripe, that already existed with us, and now most recently, Pecém, the port of Pecém. But during many years, and our debaters here weren't here at the time, but Pecém was a main fruit exporter when it was inaugurated. There weren't other products, and our participation in the state favored many shipping lines because of our volumes. And so today we export around 300 containers a week. And so 100 containers, a contract with a shipping company, then it's possible to have the moor here in Pecém. And of course, with this, it helps with exports of other products in our state. Sometimes with smaller volumes, they would be able to do it. And so 2, 3 shipping lines, many in Pecém, which is a more structured port, and a little bit in Natal and Mucuripe as well. So these are the conditions that brought us here. So at the same time that the drought is a problem for many sectors, for us it's an ally, because melons don't like rain. When there's too much rain, it's no good. So we're exploring natural conditions of the Brazilian semi-arid. We can't want to change this. We're going to have to coexist with this. And much to our luck, all of this, we can't change. Europe won't be able to make their winter become summer. They'll always have to buy melons from us. And what we have to do more and more, and yesterday I was talking about this in Brasília, and we know this is one of the targets from President Bolsonaro, from the current government, for water security for the semi-arid. So if we don't have the interbasin transfer that will bring water to this region, it'll be difficult to produce. The math is simple. We have rainfall of around 600 millimeters, and we have evapotranspiration of 2,000 millimeters. And so if we don't bring water from the outside, it's difficult to produce. We have an aquifer with groundwater, but to think about expanding, going from melons to other crops, we need greater water security. And the state of Ceará has invested. There's construction like Castanhão, the water distribution network. We're getting ready for all of this, but what depends on the federal government is to bring water from the outside in to continue producing. The sector is always trying to reinvent itself. Besides many other sectors, I think Brazil has learned a lot with agribusiness. A sector that's well developed with qualified labor. You have attractive investment, innovation. And so I think it's a sector that needs to be looked at as a case of success, because Brazil, besides capacity to produce, we've done our homework, reinvented ourselves, and major countries that can't produce their own demands, they need us. And that's why the state participates in this movement with you at Agricola. Congratulations, Claudio. Even during the pandemic, CSP continues quite active in the international market. What is your vision, and how do you see these changes in your sector, even with this new moment of the pandemic, changes in the global market, and especially, not this fight, but this confrontation, if you will, of G2 between China and United States? You have a concern, or you think this could mean opportunities? I think we have a huge uncertainty ahead of us. We don't know what will be the outcome of this dispute that we see mainly by the U.S. government. The Chinese are a little bit more reactive, but anyway, this is creating a lot of turbulence in the market, and we don't have the conditions yet to see what's going to happen at the end of the day, really. So, in our specific case, this period now, China has increased a lot of demand, but I think it's circumstantial in the steel market. The United States has a strong reaction. They actually want to impose tariffs, imports of Brazilian steel, besides the quotas that we have today. So replace quotas with tariffs. And Europe is just stopped. So I don't know how this is going to unfold. I don't think anybody has a crystal ball. What will be the final impact of all of this? We can already see some level of protection in the market, which can perhaps open markets. I think this will be a huge challenge. It's going to require involvement of Brazilian diplomacy, and we need to pay attention to these commercial issues. So the imposition of quotas that the U.S. market is doing with Brazilian steel is something that didn't go through the World Trade Organization. This was a unilateral decision from the U.S. government, centered on local interests, and the justification was national security, homeland security, something that nobody can really understand. So anyway, I see a huge degree of uncertainty And it'll be very important to see the participation of Brazilian diplomacy to try to mitigate this risk between the markets. Yeah, we did some work at the Secretariat to try and understand the market, what's going to happen post-pandemic. And like you said, I mean, we need to see the issue of the two powers, the trade issue, and perhaps decentralization, where the major economies will have quicker reaction than others. We also see an attempt to use the WTO. We're thinking more of bilateral agreements. So I don't know if it's going to change, but accelerate some market processes that we imagine was already going to happen, but in this pandemic, it's going to accelerate. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, perhaps it's going to change what was happening. I mean, the world was going towards a freer market. And it seems that this is a reaction on the opposite way. You know, it's going to accelerate. The process is going to accelerate. The pandemic is going to help to accelerate the process. Losses will be huge everywhere around the world, for sure. And so I think it's going to accelerate. I think we were going in this direction, and now the world decided to change the direction because of this friction between US and China. Yeah. And we also see at Aeris, like you said, a investment capacity betting a lot on our market, the international market. And the facilities here, Aeris just acquired Vobin and are hiring even in this period. So if you could tell us the strategy of the plans for growth, this market vision that you have from this new acquisition of Vobin's facilities. Yeah, in fact, we have grown during the pandemic. I mean, since the beginning of the year, we've hired more than 500 people. We grew in the third quarter in relationship to the first quarter, especially in terms of productivity. I think the world is going to be more sustainable in a post-pandemic world. The world, I mean, I think people are more aware. I actually see that human beings always had a huge difficulty in believing in something they've never seen, and we've never seen this that's happening now. And those of us in the sector, when we used to talk about global warming, you know, the increase of sea levels, people didn't believe. And today, people are more aware. I mean, companies are more aware. And so we see this movement now, not only of companies, but governments, you know, agreeing with the issue of global warming and the expansion of renewable energies. All renewables, I would say, like solar and wind, are gaining a lot of space, if you will, and will gain a lot of space. The major companies, the international companies like Microsoft, Ambev, all of them are committing and engaging zero carbon emissions. And so we see this movement, this very strong movement, and the commitment of the governments generally speaking, with renewable energies. This is great because today wind, together with solar, it's the cheapest energy in the world. However, you need subsidies, you need support for the next few years because of the pandemic. The demand has gone down, and then the prices, like any commodities, have gone down. And of course, that business plan that all the companies were developing, now they change. And it's very important that all governments maintain the support and continue supporting these sectors. China and the US, that are the two largest players in the world, have announced the extension of subsidies for the next 4 years that they had already announced that they were going to reduce, and they will continue with these subsidies. So Aeris is well positioned in this context. We're very competitive for the Americas as a whole. Central America, North America, South America, very competitive in these countries to send blades to these countries. And in fact, the demand we've seen very strong. The sector is very resilient. During the pandemic, we didn't have any clients calling us and saying, hold on a bit, such thing happened, we're reducing demand. We didn't really have that. So of course we had an operational problem, like almost everybody has. So transportation of raw materials, many people were laid off. So in fact, even the speed of implementation has decreased as a whole, but the demand continues. And it's important to say that. And this has everything to do with the acquisition we made from Vobin. We're going to dedicate that plant for the next year and a half for exports. We should increase our capacity in around 30% and the number of blades. And at this moment, we are making some modifications to adapt our blade model, and we're going to start producing now in the beginning of September. We're going to start to have the first few blades. And so this acquisition of Vobin for us is a natural movement, okay? Given the moment of the market and what's going on in the world, of course. There are many risks that we see. This bilateral agreement, China and United States, you never really know what's going to happen. However, in fact, the context is very favorable. I think, in fact, the world has the world is awake now to this issue of pollution and global warming. I think solar and wind are well positioned, and I think Brazil is well positioned in this sense, and has everything to stand out with wind. Wind power is the second largest energy matrix in Brazil. We have water and hydro, and then wind, 8 gigawatts to be installed in the next 4 years. So I think Brazil has a huge opportunity to show itself as a great player in renewables. We are already the most renewable matrix in the world, and we have everything to continue playing a leading role. That's great. We're going to continue contributing so that our exports can reach record levels. Of course, we're talking about the pandemic, but we already have data from June, and so we really hope that until the end of 2020, we will reach $2 billion like we did in previous years, and definitely with the three that represent their respective sectors. More than 70% of our exports, there's no doubts. We're very happy we have a buyer's market, this great moment in order to generate these results for Ceará. So Ceará can be favorable and balanced. So congratulations, Alexandre. Luis, I want to talk a little bit, talking so much about United States and China. I had the opportunity of visiting China a couple of times, and I usually say that China, I see in China people, I see a lot of opportunity in China. I think all difficulties in the market, you end up seeing opportunities and great business. And we know that at the end of last year, there was an agreement for the exports of Brazilian melons to China. So what are your expectations regarding this market? Talking about more than 1,400,000,000 consumers. Tell us a little bit about this opportunity. After 7 years, Cesar, struggling in Brasilia to open this market, it depends a lot on the market. The Ministry of Agriculture, together with the Chinese ministry, we finished our risk analysis. And we established a protocol, and this protocol was published in January of this year. Unfortunately, when the pandemic was, taking shape in Asia and then coming to Brazil, the potential is huge. I mean, for you to have an idea, all of Brazil, 20,000 hectares of melons. And so the only place in the world where you really can plant melons, many go to exports, and 10,000 hectares we consume in Brazil. We're responsible for 50% of the market share. China plants only in the summer because the winter is very cold, 400,000 hectares for their own consumption. And so we consume 10,000, so it's 40 times more. Now, if you calculate only 10% of the Chinese market, let's forget 90%, only 10%, we're talking equivalent to 40,000 hectares. In other words, it's double of what we plant today. So this, we would have to triple our volume. So there's a huge potential. China's a huge melon consumer, so it's a market now to be contemplated. But the problem now, and we're trying to send some samples to establish a commercial relationship, the varieties, the best clients. It's logistics, because we don't have in our region any maritime service that connects Pecém, for example, directly to a Chinese port. The distance itself is very long. Directly, it would take 30 days, be it by Panama or Suez. But we don't have that. So today, you have to send to Santos, or the south of Spain, or somewhere else for transshipment. And this ends up extending our transit time more than 40 days, which is too much for melons. Melons can't take that trip. And so we're working with some shipping lines so they could come and get some containers, economically not that feasible, but to see if Porto do Pecém and a reduction of rates so that we can at least send some samples. So we don't have the ship, you can't have volume, and so we need to break this cycle. But this potential exists. Now the challenge of logistics to find partners. There is the possibility air transportation, but because of the pandemic it's hard, and the cost is high in normal conditions, and now even more so. With very few flights, the cost is even higher. So difficult to do commercial exports with air transportation. So let's see what's going to happen in the next few months. Well, you can always count on us, air or by ship, if we can identify an opportunity. You know that we're always here, that the government has worked a lot to promote business in Ceará so that all of this could happen. Now, I received a message. I don't like when I receive this message, but I received this message 10 minutes left. But I didn't want to end without first asking something very important, because of the capacity that you have to talk about the different aspects. I'd like to ask you, and I'm going to start with Alexandre. How is the Made in Ceará product post-pandemic? I mean, how do you see the situation, your business, regarding local production in the moment of post-pandemic? So you have about 2 minutes each. I know it's very little time, but starting with you, Alexandre, how is Made in Ceará post-pandemic? Well, for us in wind power, we're very optimistic. We usually say that entrepreneurs in Brazil really need to be optimistic by nature. And so, in fact, we're very optimistic. Our forecasts to install wind power in Brazil and the rest of the world, wind power is around 10%. There is a plan to get to 40% of the global matrix. And so, besides growing, the world consumption will grow and wind power will gain space. And the world is going to renewables and electric buses, electric vehicles. The world is becoming more electric, if you will, and things are changing. So I think Aeris is well positioned to meet the needs of this market, well positioned to grow together with the market. We, in fact, hope to become a global company with a global footprint, because all of our clients are multinational clients. It's very important to have this global position, if you will, so we can, in fact, always discuss these issues, these important issues. So, post-pandemic, we believe in a more sustainable world, a greener world, a world that's more conscious. People are becoming more conscious, a better mindset. Personally, I believe that this polarization that we see not only in Brazil but the rest of the world, I hope and I believe that this will decrease with time. Okay? I think it's a phase we're going through, and I really believe, in fact, I believe in human beings, and I really believe in our Brazil. So that's the message. I think we need to continue together, optimistic, that we're going to get out of this into a better world. Well, if we don't learn with our difficulties, it's not going to help. So we need to grow, even with what's happening. I think this is great, Alexandre. Yeah, I agree 100% with what you said. And now, Claudio, how, I wouldn't say our steel, but Made in Ceará post-pandemic, how do you see this? Well, first, I would like to congratulate Alexandre. I think I agree with everything that Alexandre mentioned. Renewables, and I can say that recently we received an award from the UN as a project, an example of sustainability in terms of the environment and safety and security, and also leveraging the communities that are around us and how to include them especially local labor in our projects. And so it's great to have received this award. And I agree 100% with Alexandre. The company that has this perception of sustainability, not with discourse, but if they really have this in their DNA, they're going to be successful in a post-pandemic world. Just like Aeris, CSP is very well positioned in this sense to get into the world market of certification, production with sustainability. And so I think Made in Ceará has a great outlook. Not only our beautiful beaches, but Made in Ceará is also quite a beautiful project. Yeah, I agree. The levels of compliance are more rigorous and more structured. That helps us really in the development and methodology of our companies. There are even investment funds linked to sustainability, and so I think it's not a trend. I think it's here to stay. Companies that know how to structure and identify good opportunities for their operational movements, but also to show this, to disseminate this in a strategic, sustainable way, they will only grow and obtain great results. I agree. Yeah, just to share in these last few minutes, in our case, Alexandre, for example, we reprocess 99% of the water that we consume. And so, in a water situation like in Ceará, this is extremely important for sustainability of our company. I mean, we spend more than $1.5 billion in investments with the environment. And so if you don't have this in your DNA, I mean, if you don't have this commitment with the environment, with the community, then you're not going to survive long term. I mean, the world in the future with the pandemic will be a more conscious world. Yeah, for sure. So, Luis, our Made in Ceará, our agribusiness post-pandemic. You're an expert in all of this. How do you see this? How do you see our Made in Ceará post-pandemic 2020? Well, I also see this very with a lot of optimism. I agree with my colleagues. I think we have been responding well. Fruit crops, in our case, healthy food, rich in vitamins, mineral salts, and so more than ever, people will be concerned with this, will consume more fruit. And so I also see with great eyes and certification for 20 years now, having all the certification to export, from the most simple to the most complicated, social, environmental responsibility. So Alexandre imports raw material and exports a blade. Claudio is exporting steel and not iron ore. And so we're adding value to our products. And I think that's really important. That's the step that we're going to have to take in agribusiness. And so now we need to start thinking and working in these breakthroughs for agribusiness and this pandemic, making a comparison with a sport that Alexandre knows well. I think Brazil was a couple of laps behind our competitors. The pandemic is like a safety car to gather everyone, and those that take off well now are the ones that are going to win. So Ceará is prepared. We have infrastructure. We have an adequate port. And that's why I think within the state, all of the states of the Northeast, we have the necessary characteristics. And so the state of Ceará has this difference, offering to business owners, legal security. You can come and invest, and the government will do what it promised to do. And so to know to what extent we can reckon in Brazil, this is not a rule, but in Ceará it's been a rule. And also to add something, Luiz, I usually say, depending on how the federal government, how we deal with diplomatic relations, support the state and the diplomatic relations the state of Ceará with other countries. I think, regardless of the national context, of course, there are many challenges, but there is a legal security, capacity for investments, educational level, consolidated in terms of education, in terms of health, transparency. So you have great players like you guys, like CSP, like Aeris, like others. You have all of this in your favor to receive investments. Port of Rotterdam, that's a partner of PECEM, the air hub with Air France KLM, tech hub that's being developed with major data centers. So I think we're on the right track. The challenge is huge, but it's like you mentioned, if we really want to work and make it happen, then it's up to us to deliver the right results. And we're going to leave this pandemic stronger and more consolidated. Okay? So I'd really like to thank all of you for your participation. Great friends, people that I admire so much. I think the state grows a lot with these companies and their intellectual professional capacity. Alexandre, I'd like to thank you for this panel. Congratulations. At Aeris, congratulations for everything. Claudio, my friend, congratulations once again for bringing this great project, perhaps the greatest industrial plant that the state has ever received in the last few years. Huge production capacity, helping with the ZPE. So it's great to have the steel mill here with us in the state. Congratulations for the skill that you're spearheading CSP and the strategies for CSP to grow more and more. And Luis, my friend as well, that I've known for a long time, congratulations. You're a visionary. I've always been following you. Whenever we talk about agriculture and agribusiness, you're a reference. The capacity that you have of expanding your market, expanding your production capacity, and the challenges that we have ahead of us. But anyway, it's great to have you here with us and congratulate the three of you for this movement, for contributing so that our Made in Ceará, our product can have this great quality seal, if you will.
Absurdamente inovadoras, tecnológicas e com uma planta também de água muito bem consolidada.
Congratulations. And I don't know if you guys want to say anything, but anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you. And Cesar, I think you also did some great work at the international relations with the government. And after the pandemic, we hope that you can continue attracting investors to the state. Everyone comes out winning. Not only the government, not only the state, but we all come out winning with the state that accepted us so well, and that we want to see it better and better. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Cesar, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with such important people. You're more than just a leader. You're a friend, somebody who's very positive in the work that you do. You're an all-around nice guy, and especially your commitment, your engagement of a partnership between the government and companies in a healthy way, in a positive manner, with a high level of governance and mutual respect. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And it was a great pleasure to meet you, Luis Barcelos and Alexandre Negrão. And I hope that we can see each other soon, face to face, personally. Thank you. All the best. Congratulations for all your work at CSP. Alexandre. Yes, Cesar, thank you very much. I would like to thank you and my colleagues. Congratulations. You're a great moderator. Excellent moderation. I'd like to say that I'm a great admirer of Claudio and Luis and what you've been doing for the state and Brazil. And just a curiosity, is because of race car driving, I'm here in Ceará. There's a friend of mine who also was a race car driver with me 10 years ago, and I was talking to him during a race in Ribeiro Preto, and we were talking about investments, and I told him a little bit about the idea of Aeris at the time, and he said, wow, why don't you come to Ceará? I need to introduce you to Ceará. And the next week I took a plane, I came here, and I saw the port, and things just flowed naturally. It was great. So thanks to race car driving that we're here today. Wow, great. That's amazing. Yeah, great, Alexandre. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, everyone. And we're very happy to be able to contribute with this panel. Ceará Global is a great movement, a great opportunity for people to get in touch with the expectations of international affairs, what the state is doing, and opportunities. So I'd like to thank everyone that are organizing Ceará Global. This year it's virtual, but also like to thank the invitation to moderate such an important panel with such dear people, such as the three of you. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. See you later. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Obrigado, gente. Abraço a todos.
Abraço.